Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and this is the new Nokia 7.1, which isn't a very exciting name, but it's actually a very good mid-range phone because in the UK, you can get this for £299 or $349 in the US, which puts it up against the likes of the Honor Play, the Moto G6 Plus, and of course Xiaomi's Poco Phone F1. Now the problem is, this is a mid-range Nokia phone. We've got a Snapdragon 636, 3 or 4 gigs of RAM, and a 3060 mAh battery. Nothing really exciting to write home about. But then we look at the price and we think, okay, that's pretty reasonable. But things are changing. And more these days, mid-range prices doesn't necessarily mean mid-range specs. Look at the Poco phone, for example, which is now available on Amazon UK for $329, and it has a Snapdragon 845, 6 gigs of RAM, and a massive 4000 mAh battery. It's a flagship phone for 30 quid more than the Nokia. So while HMD Global, the company behind the new rebranded Nokia, are producing some terrific phones like the 7 Plus that came out earlier in the year, which I was a huge fan of, and of course this new 7.1 I've got here, it is facing some very strong competition from the likes of Huawei, Honor, Xiaomi, and Lenovo's Motorola. But as you know, it's not all about specs, and Nokia phones have one key selling point that makes you forget all about Snapdragons and gigabytes. And that's Android One. Android One is the Google program that means you'll have as close to a stock Android experience as possible outside of their own Google Pixel phones. So no bloatware, no long animations, no ugly user interface. It's fast, responsive, and just nice to use. However, even with Android One, it doesn't guarantee these phones will have the latest updates. They should get them before most other phones, but the 7.1 here ships with Android 8.1 out of the box, although I'm told that we should expect Android 9 Pie before the end of 2018. And at the same time, while Android One guarantees a certain level of stock Android goodness, phones like the Moto G6 Plus look and feel pretty close to stock Android already and offer a similar price and spec. But back to the 7.1, and beyond the great software, there's a lot to like here. Build quality is top notch, it's a really good size, not too big for using one-handed, and it just has an air of quality about it. The only thing that reminds me this is a mid-range phone is that fairly big chin, plus of course we have the notch. Elsewhere we get a 3.5mm headphone jack, a rear fingerprint reader, and a dual lens camera setup. My only other slight design complaint is the volume buttons, which are actually above the power button here on the right hand side. It's not the end of the world considering this phone isn't that big, but it's not the most comfortable placement. As for the screen, we get a 5.84-inch Full HD Plus display, which is bright, sharp, and it supports HDR10. It is an LCD though, so you do lack the super rich colors and deep blacks of an AMOLED. Also, the screen is actually using Gorilla Glass 3, which is fine, but considering some new phones like the OnePlus 60 actually now use Gorilla Glass 6, it's not going to be the most resilient. Battery life is pretty average as well. The 3060 mAh cell is definitely on the smaller side these days. But thanks to the efficient 636 processor, the Full HD resolution, and optimized software, we still get a decent battery life. And by the end of a normal day, I have around 20% left, which is respectable, but not amazing. A bigger battery would be great to see on the next Nokia. Although we do get fast charging, about half an hour will give you 50% of your battery back, although it doesn't support any wireless charging. Now let's talk about that camera, because a few years ago, Nokia Lumia Windows phones had some of the best cameras you could get. But we do have to remember this is a mid-range phone. But despite that, the camera is actually surprisingly good, and it's helped in part by the Carl Zeiss optics and processing. We get two lenses, a 12 megapixel f1.8 main lens and a 5 megapixel f2.4 depth lens for the portrait mode. Photos look sharp, vibrant, and it handles dynamic range well. It doesn't quite compete with the flagships out there like the Pixel 3, iPhone XS and Mate 20 Pro, but it is still very good considering the price. Videos can be recorded in up to 4K, although it's only stabilized to 1080p, so I'd stick with that. On the front we get an 8 megapixel f2 selfie camera and actually produces some really nice selfies. So despite a very crowded mid-range market with competitors offering flagship specs for similar prices, I would still highly recommend the £300 Nokia 7.1. It's a good all-rounder and the excellent Android One software definitely gives it an advantage over its more powerful rivals. I've put links for the 7.1 in the description, as well as its competitors if you want to find out more. But what do you think of these Nokia phones and Android One? Is it a big selling point for you? Let me know in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did and you want to see more of my stuff, hit that like and subscribe button down there and check that little notification bell so you don't miss out on my next one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.